Okay, so for my Kingdom coaches and course creators, you are here because you want to learn how to make your offer stand out amongst the competition and build an audience of buyers and sell to your perfect fit God ordained client. So, just a quick summary of how this came about. This has been something that I have been talking about with my clients and understanding the current position that the market is in. As a coach, we recognize that we are now serving audiences who are more mature, savvy buyers. And that top layer, fluffy messaging, are you struggling with this? Are you struggling with that? It's just not going to work anymore. On top of that, there are so many coaches that are entering the space. Some are good, some are, working on it, whatever the reason, there is a trust deficit. And not to mention, there is just a fight for our attention. So, how do we stand out amongst all of this noise? And one thing that I learned is that when you use the voice that God has given you and the message that He has put in you specifically for your offer, it is going to be a beacon, a signal amongst all of the noise, and it's going to draw in the people that God has called to work with you for this very specific offer. But there is a way in which you can intentionally do that on purpose, because we already know that there is no competition in the kingdom. But if you are not using your voice in a way that is powerful, that speaks to your God ordained client, then you're not going to be able to stand out amongst the noise, despite the fact that there is people that you are supposed to steward over in your sphere of influence. Okay. So this is kind of what we've been talking about in my containers, and recognizing, how do we establish trust? Because trust is at an all-time low, multiple reasons outside of business, but in the business space, whether coaches have just had really terrible experiences with marketing, or maybe they've had terrible experiences inside offers, whatever the case is, you are battling against all of that. So when you are able to master what I'm about to show you, it is going to make any strategy that you have used before, that you've been trying to get work on purpose, or finally start truly working. And it's going to be a skill set that is going to be so irreplaceable, because this is how you make sales on purpose. Okay. So let me know if you can relate to any of this. Okay. Let's say, have you been trying to do lead magnets? Have they constantly been flopping, which basically means they're just not working, and you end up feeling like you give away all of your information in the lead magnet. So you're like, okay, I thought I was going to try to do this automated funnel thing. I thought I was trying to collect leads, grow emails, whether it be like just more leads for your launch, whatever the case is. I thought I was going to implement an email strategy, but my lead magnet is doing a whole bunch of nothing. So maybe though, you're really great at generating leads, and you might be someone that has thousands of people right now on your email list, but they hardly buy. And if they do, then you're like, okay, these are actually not the right people. Or let's say in your content, in your marketing, in your messaging, you're in the cheerleader zone, the inspiration zone. People say your content's so inspiring. You're basically just in the friend zone, motivation zone, and you're not the expert. You're not seen as the expert, which basically means it's a lot harder for people to buy if you are not then selling live, right? Doing live launching, or hopping on sales call, because you know that every time you do a launch or you hop on sales calls, you're going to make sales. But that's not really practical, right? Because you might be in this season where you need to scale and you need more time. So you need cash flow that runs without you. But everything you're doing, even sometimes maybe in the live launching, you just feel like you're giving away free tips and you think that's the way to give value. But again, you're hardly selling in between your launches. The launches feel like, if I just get them to day 3 and like I get on a call with them, they apply, or if I just get into that last day and they experience this, then, maybe they're going to buy. Well, you don't have to live in maybes. You can actually live in intentionality. But then the question is, well, what does offer messaging have to do with sustainable sales? And it is literally everything. So let's break it down, okay? Because what you really want and why we want to nail our offer messaging, why we want to step into sustainable sales. Of course, we want our cash flow to work without us. Of course, we don't want to rely on live launching. We don't want to have to get on sales call. Of course, we want more time with our friends and family, all of those things. But what really is driving you in this season is that you're ready to step into your next level God-sized mission. There's another level that the Lord is asking you to step into. And if you are a kingdom pioneer, someone who is a thought leader, you are meant to be the person that changes the conversation and leads it in a new way, more specifically, a God ordained way. So this is your voice era. This is where your voice holds weight, whether it's you speaking or you crystallize your thoughts in the form of books, writings, podcasts, whatever. But you can't do that if your business isn't running like a well-oiled machine without you. If it relies on you to show up every day to post to make sales, and even then they may be far few, or if it relies on you to ramp up for a live launch because a live launch is a live launch for a reason, you can't step confidently into your voice era if you do not have a sustainable business model. Okay. But every sustainable business model, no matter what strategy you use, is dependent upon your ability to articulate the offer, the goals that God put inside you, inside of this offer that's meant to go out into your dream people. Because it's not just an offer, it's actually something that's going to set so many people free. Your success is going to set so many people free. And that is really what this is about. You need to make money as a kingdom entrepreneur. If you're in business and you're not making money, what are you doing it for? Because the logical byproduct of every business is that it's supposed to make money. And as an entrepreneur, you have an unlimited wealth cap. You're not capped by a salary. You're not capped by anybody telling you how much you can make. You have an open access, an open plumb line to heaven. And so it's imperative that you tap into that and make that work in a sustainable way, because you need to funnel that back into the kingdom and you need to step into the next that God has called you into. Okay. And of course, we want to do this without sacrificing more time away from our family or stress or whatever the case is, because it can be simple if you let it. Okay. So where do we start? And again, it's your offer messaging. This dictates every single strategy and system that you use. So before I get into the actual breakdown of it, I just want to go over a little bit of the mistakes that people make. And you could probably find yourself in this because this was me as well. So let's say when it comes to trying to create content messaging that sells, regardless of the strategy, you may be posting organically, you may be using Facebook groups, you may be getting on sales calls, live launching, using funnels, doesn't matter the strategy. And so every time you're trying to figure out your offer messaging, you've tried a bunch of content prompts, right? So how many of you that maybe even follow like other coaches and they're like, here's 30 days of content prompts, and you're trying to follow those? Or you've bought a bunch of content scripts, because these are going to be the scripts that are going to make the sales and they're going to be so easy, right? And maybe you've used them and you've made a few sales from them, right? But again, they're not consistent and they're far and few. Or you've bought every content that converts course, every master your reels course, every storytelling course, et cetera, et cetera. You've tried to buy every little thing about content that makes money, and you have not been able to figure it out. And you're like, what the heck is going on? Because there is a super simple key formula on how you make sales on purpose. All right. And I'm going to break it down for you. And this is how you go from just creating this random content, maybe plugging in this prompt and it works. And you're like, oh my gosh, I got a sale. But then you don't know how to repeat it. Or you're like, oh man, I got to prepare for this live launch again. Do. But it just feels like you're saying the same thing over and over again. And you might feel like, oh my gosh, this is the same audience that I'm launching to before. And I'm repeating the same thing over and over again because you're missing this key piece. So you have your offer messaging, which is which has very specific components, and we're going to go over that. And you have your buyer messaging, which I'm going to talk about, that drives all of your content. That drives every single thing that you talk about. This is before you get to your Instagram post. This is before you get to your live launch or whatever your marketing or sales strategy is. If you do not do it in this order, this is why you have a hard time buying those content that converts programs and they don't work. Because most people, they start here. This is where all of the prompts live, the scripts live, the strategies. And most of the time, they don't give you the proper deep dive of your offer and buyer messaging to even create the content that goes into the reels, that goes into the carousels for you to sell in your stories. Insert, again, whatever strategy. This is the missing order. Everything is done in right order. And when you learn how to do this, you will be able to make sales on purpose. Okay. This is why you post all those random prompts and it's disconnected because you're not really knowing how to connect it back to your offer. You're not really knowing what to pull out of your offer. That's the most important thing for your dream God ordained client, like things that they need to know. So you're just all over the place with these prompts. You're talking about too many different things and you don't know how to talk about the same things 10 different angles. 1,000 different angles. You don't know how to do that because you can't do that if you don't start here. But then the second piece of not only just knowing your offer, you have to know your specific person. And I'm not talking about just niching down and da-da-da-da. It's more than that. You have to pick and speak to the person that this offer is meant for in the broader perspective of your purpose. That is how you niche. So to give you an example of that, I could be like, okay, let's just talk about funnels because if you're here, you probably know all I talk about is funnels. So let's say I'm talking to Kingdom coaches who I know want to have funnels, but I am not doing that in a way where I am, um, speaking to the specific point in which I'm helping. So example, if I'm talking to someone who doesn't know about funnels at all, that's going to be a different conversation than someone who is already versed in funnels, but he or she just may struggle and not know how to actually put one together. So you can see that as I go throughout my content, one moment I'm speaking to the beginner who knows nothing about funnels and I'm trying to educate them on funnels. And then my next post is for the person that's been, doing all the things with funnels, not really being able to get them to connect. And I'm having another post speaking to them. So do you see how there is confusion? You may actually have to run this back and listen to that again because you think you're speaking to your person, but you keep speaking to the same person at different points. That's why it's very, very clear who is this offer for and what is the very specific point in the person that you help. When you get this part, you'll start to go back and see your messaging. You're like, oh, I am speaking to the same person, but it's a little bit all over the place. I'm actually talking to two versions of my same person, but they're just at two different points in their life. That's one way that it gets, muddied. So learning how to speak to that dream person. Because I bet if I asked you, who is your dream person for this offer, you're going to be able to explain it. But then the minute you go to articulate it in your content and in your messaging, you don't do it. There's a specific person, one whom which you do not have to go and provide all of the foundational information that's needed for this offer. So if your offer, again, if we're going to talk about funnels, if my offer is for people who understand that they need funnels for sustainable cash flow, I don't need to go back to the beginning and explain to them about funnels. What is a funnel? They already know. I'm speaking to that person. Yes, I may attract the other people, but I'm speaking to my person who's looking for sustainable cash flow right now. She knows she needs an automated system. She might not be looking for funnels. She may not specifically be looking for that per se, but she's looking for something that makes money without her. What does that world look like? And that's a very different person than someone who I have to educate from the very beginning about funnels. And so I'm speaking to my God ordained client her characteristics, who she is at this specific point with a very specific thing that I solve in this offer. If you master this, then when you go and put it into content prompts, formulas, scripts, whatever, strategies, this is what will make it work. And the most important thing too is that you're going to be able to build momentum, because when you have the correct person that comes into your space that you know you're meant to serve, that's when your space feels like a dream and feels like a breeze, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm serving who God has called me to serve. And it feels like effortless, right? Because I'm sure some of you may know what it's like to have so many people in your offer and you've sold it, but then you start changing, start making these tweaks, and then you look up months and months later and you're like, holy moly, I've changed this whole program based on the avatar of these people that are in here that are not even a good fit. So now I've changed my offer and I'm like, now you're confused. Yeah. This solves so many things when you get this right. It mitigates so many risks that you may not even be aware of by the time you get there. So I want to break it down just a little bit so that you understand kind of a rough outline on how this works. So your offer and buyer messaging can be broken down into a simple buyer psychology formula. This formula is based on how we as humans inherently make decisions to purchase. And it's going to be different for every single offer, every single person. But if you heard of top of funnel, right? Problem awareness content, middle of funnel, solution aware, bottom of funnel, offer aware, this formula helps to execute that problem. Okay. Because the way people generally think is that they have some problem, that they have things they think solve the problem. There's a bunch of symptoms that they're experiencing. You, as the expert, need to shift their perspective and actually identify the root problem for them, which is essentially your solution, because you have a unique lens in how you do it, some sort of signature process, and that your offer is going to get them to AKA problem solve. You've probably heard this a lot and you're like, okay, how do I do this? Because I'm clearly doing it on sales calls. I'm clearly doing it in launching, but I want to do this on purpose. Because if you can do this on purpose, this is where you create that sustainable cash flow. So let's just break this formula down a little bit. Okay. So when we talk about using this formula, it's not just listing every single problem they have. You've probably heard people say you have to list the now problem. What that means is that objectively there is a problem. I need to lose weight. I need sustainable cash flow. I'm trying to, hit 10K months, but something is blocking me. They have some problem they are trying to solve. I'm trying to master reels. I'm trying to optimize my time, insert whatever problem people are currently searching for in their mind on Google, on so wherever. Okay. But out of the myriad of problems your offer solves, there's one that is like the most pressing. That is what is meant when we talk about now problems, because that is what somebody is looking to solve that problem today. So for example, with funnels, I solve your lead generation issue. I solve email marketing issue. I solve your lead conversion issue. I solve a lot of other problems, but that's not pressing for you. You're like, I don't care to build my email list, right? That's just a byproduct. What you care about is that you're like, I want sustainable cash flow. I don't want to have to rely on live launching. God is calling me and I'm like, I can't do this podcast. I can't write this book if I'm trying to sell and serve my clients and do my family and live my life. Blah. You have a now problem. So I need to find that problem. The next thing that the mind goes to is that there is a reason why you want to solve that problem. And this is what we call a subjective problem. It is relative to your dream client. It's their pain. It's their perceived problem. This is where you create the perceived value. It's the reason why they want to solve the problem. It could be status. It could be family. It could be goals. It could be just issues. Whatever it is, there is a reason. And so you heard the reason that we talked about in this one, right? God's calling. The doors are open. to your next level. And you're like, how on earth am I going to be able to do this if I'm wearing the 10,000 hats in my business, the 10,000 hats at home, and my whole self-care and life is neglected? I'm spending all of my time trying to make money, and I just know that there's a better way because I can't keep doing this anymore. I have to step into my next, but I'm feeling stretched thin and burnt out. And I'm feeling like my last launch, I gave myself a D minus. It wasn't great. And now I feel like I'm chasing sales, even though I know I crush it at these launches. But I just know that this season is coming to an end. There's some pain point. And this is not like, oh, well, you're struggling. It's this and this and that. It's like, no, there's just inherent emotional reason why someone wants to solve it. And you got to find that. So do you see how now this offer and buyer messaging is starting to come into play? And then the next thing that usually happens, and it's not always in this order, but generally speaking, this is the buying decision pattern that most of us go through. And it covers both your emotional and logic-based buyers. That's how beautiful this formula is, because if not, you're like, okay, am I covering the emotional people? Am I covering the FOMO people? And you're like, okay, you can get it all done in this. So usually the next thing though they have is like just the belief of self. And normally the beliefs of self is just like the internal beliefs that they may have. And we're going to play with the funnels of like, I don't know if I'm smart enough for this. I don't know if I'm techie enough for this. I don't know if I have the time. I don't know if it can be that easy. Is it truly that possible that if I haven't worked all day, if I haven't made all these posts, that I can genuinely make sales in my sleep? Insert whatever false belief they have. The next thing that they have are usually, they're actively trying to solve this, right? So the things they think that solve the problem, they're taking all of these steps to solve the problem. If the problem is sustainable cash flow, okay, I don't know if I can have sustainable cash flow. I don't know if it can be that easy. I don't know, but I got this pain that's pressing on me. I need to solve this problem. So they try, oh, maybe I need more leads, because if I could just get more leads on this launch and more cash, I should be good for another 3 months. And eventually one day I'm going to get off of the launch roller coaster, right? So other things could be whatever the prevailing wisdom. Oh no, don't use launches. Launches don't work. I mean, don't use funnels. Funnels don't work because it takes away the magic. Automation is too robotic. It's not personal. All right. So what are all of these reasons? And then because of this is where then you go and you're able to start to actively tear down these beliefs in your content. Because what ends up happening along this journey is that every step of the journey, okay, are some form of like roadblock. Every time they get to some part of the journey, there is some roadblock, there is some domino that's in the way. And so when you can map out this offer buyer journey, you're already going to notice the dominoes. And guess what? Your content is going to knock them down, because these are the internal and external, whatever the case is, beliefs and decision blockers that are preventing them from seeing you as the solution. So they're actively trying to get from here to from this now problem to their desire. And so let's say, for example, you knock down all the roadblocks, but then you get stuck here. Well, then they go back out into the ethers and they're trying to figure out who's going to get me further. Because I'm like, okay, I got all this information. I know the prevailing wisdom. I believe I can do it. I believe funnels are the answer, right? So your job is to complete the journey with this offer buyer messaging. So the next piece that happens is that normally they just have some external beliefs about like this journey, this experience that you're taking, that they have to go on in order to, let's say the passive income or the sustainable income lifestyle. Again, there's beliefs. Maybe I've tried, Facebook ads and it won't work, or oh my gosh, maybe it's something with the family. I don't know if I can buy another program because it seems like if I want this answer, it's going to be in another program. I don't know. You have to find that and you have to knock that domino down. And then the next piece is that once you've introduced your unique lens, your signature process, right? Because here in this point is where you start to teach them how you think. This right here is the key piece that normally where you give a whole bunch of free tips. This is the place where you're normally giving away free tips, you're giving all the sauce, and you're just like, why aren't they buying? But when you start to tackle these specific dominoes, the way you tackle them is actually with your unique framework and your unique lens. So for example, if we go back into where we talked about like the prevailing wisdom of like funnels are impersonal. Well, I can have a post that talks about how my client created a unique funnel experience that didn't sacrifice her brand quality, where the dream clients that came through her funnel felt like they were going through a concierge luxe experience. And someone's gonna be like, wait a second, I haven't heard a funnel like that before. But then also, I haven't heard it talked about like that before. Okay, I'm interested, right? So now here kind of at this step is where you're just really continuing to break down, and this is kind of where you tackle the logical buyers, is that you've been doing it this old way. This is the way that they've been trying to do it to achieve, right? Despite the prevailing wisdom, despite the things they've actively been trying, whatever the case is, they're still stuck. And so you're painting the picture of, this is the old way, let me show you the new way. And when you show them the new way, you're teaching them how you think about it, how you got to this unique space. And this is so much more potent than, oh, here are the 4 steps and here are the 4 tips. Because no matter if you're in a mature market or a new market, if you master how to speak like this, it doesn't matter, because you're going to resonate so much deeper, because you're going to speak again to the subconscious, the psychology, the buyer decisions, and you're actually going to share the unique genius that God has given you without giving away the things. Okay. And then at the very bottom, this is when really it just comes down to, it's like, okay, well, what is it? What is your offer? This is where you ask answer the very simple FAQs of, okay, it has this time, this is how you get help, this is how you get support, da 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 da. This is what it looks like inside your program, inside your experience. This is also a little bit too where you can share deeper into like your mission, why you are doing this, why God put this on your heart, so on and so forth. So when you can craft your offer buyer messaging, you have a very specific person. Okay. She's at a very specific point for this offer. And you take her through this journey and you knock down all of the dominoes that are in the way. This is what establishes trust. This is what establishes bingeable content, because you don't need 70,000 million touch points for someone to buy. You don't need to warm them up with other offers if you can master this. Because when you knock down these dominoes in their mind, it establishes trust, because the only way for you to knock down a domino is you have to know what you're saying. You have to know what they're going through. And then you, as the expert, need to confidently articulate the way that God has put in you, which is your new way of, oops, sorry, is that a mosquito? Absolutely not. Okay, sorry. There's a mosquito in here. Gosh. Okay. And your ability to be able to do this is how you are able to make sales on purpose. Get them from their problem to their destination, knocking down any beliefs in their minds like the walls of Jericho. Okay. You nail this and you build trust. So when you master this, you gather all of the information for this specific person. Then the next question is, though, it's like, okay, well, how do I actually put that in a content strategy? So let's briefly talk about that. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 strategies. Okay, so it's like you get that offer buyer messaging. Now you know what you're going to talk about in your content. And now you need to disperse it into the different formats in your marketing and sales strategy. And it's going to just be based on whatever your strategies and systems are. So I'm going to show you two ways. So you have probably, right, done a launch. but you're not exactly sure what about the launch is what is making people buy, right? You're good at following the launch strategy, you're great at selling live, but you're like, I don't know how to really, like, what are the key components that makes this happen on purpose? Okay. So then after you're done launching, you have all of your content, your podcast, your Facebook group, your YouTube, you have all the things. But again, it's like you're in the friend zone, you're in the value zone, months go by and you haven't made any sales from, the last time you launched, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to need to launch again just to make money. Or a lot of your sales come from referrals, but you're just like, how can I scale and grow? So when you have that offer buyer messaging strategy, what most people end up doing is they try to put that into a content strategy. They try to first put it in organic content. So if let's just talk about Instagram. So you have your top of funnel post, you're, trying to make reels, you're trying to make carousels. You're hoping that's going to drive, hit the explore page, right? Because you need to have this growth content, and you're hoping it hits the explore page so that you end up creating followers that are targeted. They come, they want to scroll your profile, and then it's like, okay, you have a carousel, maybe a static post, another reel, and you're just trying to get this messaging across. And then in your story, you're doing your bottom of funnel selling, and then your call to action is either like the convo in the DM, hit the link in bio, or get on a sales call. This is a little bit more complex, because what you're trying to do now is take that buyer psychology messaging journey that we went through, right? That has all of these things and all of these dominoes, and you're trying to strategically break it up into reels, into carousels, selling on your story. And not to mention, Instagram has its own way on how you actually articulate that as a strategy. And then you still got to then close them. However, if you master this, then yes, you will have a sustainable cash flow if you know how to take this framework and create your content every single month. But this, again, to me, is just a little bit complex when you're trying to create sustainable cash flow that works without you. It doesn't really give you any vision. You can check your insights, right? But it's not as super helpful, because a lot of times posts that have a lot of engagement don't make sales. Posts that have no engagement make sales. Posts that have a great engagement make sales. Some that have, terrible engagement don't make. You just really don't know. So it's very hard to discern what actually is working. And then how do you make sure you properly articulate this messaging journey? Because if you start talking about many different topics, if you start veering from this journey and you don't close the loop, this is why people don't buy. And they're like, okay, this is good, but you haven't led them to the promised land. So they're just kind of like, okay. So now 30, 40, 60, 90 days have gone by, and you're trying to figure out, how do you create this cohesive message until you master it? Because it's time-based. You just have to wait. And you have to hope that your top of funnel content hits, people are seeing it, and then they buy. That, to me, is a lot. And that's not what I choose to do when I create sustainable cash flow. Because for me, there is an easier way, and I prefer to create sustainable cash using systems that are actually meant for sustainable cash. Organic content isn't, because it relies on me to show up. There is a time and place for that. So let's talk about how, and again, you have to create multiple pieces of content. So let's talk about a funnel. Let's say, again, you have that buyer journey messaging, all the things, you know how to knock down all the dominoes, you know what to say. You have one topic and you're like, cool. Well, guess what? And you have your top of funnel, your middle of funnel, and your bottom of funnel. So, guess what? You can run ads or Instagram posts, and all you're focused on is top of funnel content. Super easy. Problem awareness to the now problem that people are interested in. Okay. They come into the opt-in. The opt-in is the same top of funnel messaging. And then you have some sort of download, some sort of experience, and you have some sort of email nurture sequence. That is your middle of funnel. And then boom, here is your bottom of funnel. But you want to know the most beautiful thing about this is that you do this one time. You create this one time. So what do I mean by that? So generally speaking, the way that I like to do it is that I create my one sort of content event that is like the key thing my person wants to know. The beautiful part is once I create this piece of content, it's going to write my opt-in page for me and it's going to write my top of funnel because I'm just going to extract it from this one piece of content. Oh, and not only that, what I say inside of this content is also going to inform all of my email nurture sequences. So they're already written. And oh, it's going to inform my sales page. It's going to inform my abandoned cart sequence. From one piece of content, I'm going to be able to easily take that and crystallize it here, 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 and I have to just do that once. My job then becomes mastering this top of funnel content to get people into this funnel. So that's why I prefer ads, because ads go and find someone who is looking for this now problem that they literally want to solve today, and it's going to put it right in front of their face. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to do it. And then what happens is that they come into this portal and they see the entire messaging. Instead of hoping that they binge 90 pieces of content, go through all the content, my one content experience is going to take them through this entire journey. And then my email, sales page, and nurture sequence are going to support that singular message that I'm trying to get across. And again, you don't have to do ads. You can test it with organic content. But now all you're doing is getting people into your funnel with top of funnel messaging. And then here's the beautiful part. So remember, with organic content, it's kind of hard to tell, well, what's working, what's not. Well, inside this, you have one message, right? That takes them all the way to the promised land. At every single point, there is data, even down from the ads, that's going to tell you, is your messaging working? Is your imagery working? What is your bottleneck? So you will see, oh my gosh, everyone's getting stuck here. I got to fix something here. And then boom, the pipeline comes. Oh my gosh, everyone's getting stuck here. I need to fix something. Boom, the pipeline comes. You literally measure your way to success. And this is why sales happen faster, because you're moving them through the decision journey, hooking them from the very beginning, knocking down all of those walls and false beliefs in one piece of content, instead of hoping that they binge all the content by themselves. And you got to hope you did this content even correctly in the first place. Funnels effectively knock down the dominoes in their mind. And that is why sales happen faster when you correctly, right? Because it's not just sales, when you correctly follow this formula. Okay. And what ends up happening is that a funnel becomes your megaphone, calling in your dream clients, right? And it is filled with the dream message that God has put inside of you. Okay. And it'll work without you, so that then you can step into whatever next God has called you for, and because it stabilizes your cash flow for you. Because at a certain point, all you're doing is just making sure your traffic source is flowing through here, and you've optimized it for extreme. If you've heard Myron say there's two moves that you can make: more leads or increase your conversions. You can do that with this. You can really hardly do that with this. And now you're scaling your income without doing more. Because it is possible to do that without sacrificing the quality, and by creating a really cool experience for your customer to be like, she knows me, she hears me, I don't even know her. But there's no way you know this information if you haven't done the work. Okay. Because you need to make money. You need to make money. It is imperative for you to be successful and make money. You are the practical provision for the body of Christ. There are people that are waiting for your success. The kingdom needs to be built here on earth. You need to get all of your situations and things in order so that you can be more effective to the kingdom. The kingdom requires finances. There are people out there that are doing missions, that are begging for money, that need money to spread the gospel, because they've given their lives and they've devoted their lives to mission work. Churches that need to be built, initiatives that need to be supported. There's so many things that God wants to do with you, and the money that he provides, because he trusts you as a steward to steward this amount of wealth. And it's time to start the kingdom economy, where there is a body of Christ that is circulating finances like their own banking system and advancing the kingdom of God. So this is why it is so important. And it's not just your voice, your thoughts, whatever, you want to do. It's bigger. It's for the body of Christ. So creating sustainable cash flow is extremely, extremely imperative. And in order for any of these strategies to work, even the fast funnels that I teach, you need to nail your offer and buyer messaging. If you do not do this, this is why you are constantly stuck in chasing strategies, chasing loops, chasing cycles. And if you're like me, I'd rather use a strategy that's designed for sustainability than one that isn't. Okay. So give this process a try. Run it back a few times if you need to, and create content along the buyer psychology journey. Okay. And let me know what happens. And if you have any aha moments from when you were watching this video, I'd love for you to leave it in the comment of whatever post brought you here. And if you find that this is super helpful and that there is another kingdom brother or sister that would really benefit from knowing this information, then I would love if you share it. And if there's any other piece of this that you want me to go a little bit deeper into, any point of this where you want more elaboration or clarity, let me know in the comments of whatever post brought you here as well. Okay. And then lastly, if you want my help and you're like, I want a fast funnel in my business, then I can show you how I can quickly install my fast funnel system into your business and create your own unique automated sales funnel that's meant for your brand, that's meant to be the megaphone, the beacon that calls out a signal amongst the noise and draws in your God ordained client. Okay. So if that's something that you want to do, just hit me up in the DMs and we can chat. I pray that this blesses you, and I will see you soon.